put our mod program into Git and then eventually upload it to GitHub. Remember, they're two separate things. Git is a local repository that's kept on your computer that every time you check your code in, a copy's made, and you can always go back to old copies, and it does a lot of things. And then we can send it up to a remote. In this case, we're going to use GitHub. So you have actually a remote copy out on the cloud, and I'll be grading your homeworks from that code that you put on GitHub. So important to really be able to put your projects up there. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go over to the Git button on VSCode, and you notice I have my program already built. I'm going to put up there. You could do this almost from the start, but usually I'll have at least a C++ file or whatever file I'm working on in there just to have something. And you click on the little icon with the little circles here, which is for source control, and you'll say initialize repository. That's doing what we call a Git Init. Okay, and it basically initializes the Git on your machine. And you notice now all the files that you've been working on have been put in there. We'll work on kind of limiting those. Those are a lot of files, so we don't really have to have those all in there, but for right now, that's fine. And we want to move all these or check all these files into Git at this point. So we go up to where the messages box is, and we just make an initial check-in comment. It could be, now as you go along, you make comments on what you did. So right now I'm just going to say initial check-in. Later on I might have ones that is fixing this bug, or adding a feature, or continued work on this, whatever. Just kind of showing what you've been doing to come up with that version. And once I've added this in, then I hit the checkbox, and now all those go away because basically they've been checked into Git, and those are now all checked in there. So, and I can actually even look at that. I think if I do it in my terminal, if I do an ls-la, there's that Git folder. It's .git. Normally it's hidden. You notice if I go over here, you can't even see that there's a folder there, and it's called .git. And so all those files are kept inside there. You really don't need to know the insides of that, but it does exist. Okay, so at this point, we need to get it up to GitHub. It's all checked in. I should say now when I work on something, so let's go ahead and I'll make a change. So let's just put a hard return in as if I had done some change to this file. And I'll put this showing up there. Now, obviously a change has been made and it knows about it now. And this needs to be checked in, so I could say something like, this was some bug I worked on or whatever, but I'll just say check in too. And I press the checkbox, or you can also hit Command Enter, and that will do the same thing. Now that change is checked in, and I could go ahead and push all of this to GitHub. Well, the way you do that is you have to set up a remote. And let's do that real quick here. Now I'm going to bring down a project that I set up, and what will happen is in the project description within Canvas, here's an example of it. Here's the one for Rewrite Mod. There is a repo invite. You click on that, and then you click on Accept. This page that comes up will have a button that says accept, and you accept that, and it creates an empty repo for you, an empty repository. And this will be, it'll look like this. It'll say, here's how to create whatever. Well, what you really want is this little bit that's inside here. You want this. So you can hit the little clipboard on the side, and it's automatically copied to your copy buffer. And you can go back to VSCode. Okay, and now we need to set up our remote, and what I need to do is find the three little ellipses at the top here, that little icon. So once I'm inside source control, I find the three little ellipses, click on that, and go to remote, add remote, and I just paste that in there. So that's just what GitHub is set as the new repository, and I hit enter, and it says provide a remote name. Okay, the way I do that is just by convention, we call this origin. You don't have to call it that, you call it something else. However, that's just by convention, we call it origin. And then hit enter. Okay, so now the program, that's just this instance here, is linked up with the account. Now I have not synced my files up with the repository. I still need to do that. And you can do that a couple ways. We could go to pull push here and then push, and that sends all of it. It'll say, do you want to send this up there? Basically you say okay. Do you want to publish this? And you say yes. Okay. Now all those files are being sent up there, and if I go to GitHub and I press refresh, you're going to see that changes, and there are my programs. There are my files. And let me go back to VSCode, and there's nothing I want to show you here. I'm going to just close that. Is that I could have also done, I could do push or pull. So pull is when I want to pull something off of my remote. So in this case, GitHub. So if I have something up there and I want to bring it down, somebody else has made a change, I want to bring it down, that will bring it down and put it onto my machine. And then if I want to push, it will push it up to it. So you use push and pull a lot. If you're the only one working on it, though, you're pretty much going to make your changes inside of VSCode, commit them, and then push them up to GitHub. You rarely will pull on them. And I should say one other thing. I've found with students before, they've made files. So when you're making your repository up here, let me find that screen again. When you're making the repository the first time, let's just look at that. I'll go back to this and we'll kind of pretend that we're doing this. Repos. And if I was going to make one, here it's hidden, sorry. There we go. And I could put the repo name in it, so whatever, I'm not going to actually make it. And I can set this. Well, if I say add a README file or add the git nor, choose a license, whatever, if I do that, then a file is made on GitHub. And so I have to first pull that file down into my repository, then I can push everything up. So what I often tell students is don't put these in right now. It just makes it harder. When you go to create the repository, just create it empty with nothing in there. Don't add the README file. You can add that later, but do that from VS Code. So you could go in here, make a README file or whatever, make whatever you want to, and then push those up. It seems to just work better, especially when you're initializing, if you start everything from VS Code and push that up there. I hope this is helpful, and we'll talk to you later.